yourself is a travesty, and I'm angry. These regressive, harmful, non-evidence-based practices must end. Thank you.
Nick Spencer serves as the Director of Policy for the Family Foundation, a nonprofit organization that stands for Kentucky families and the biblical values that make them strong by advocating for God-honoring public policy in the Commonwealth. Nick works to educate and advocate for biblically grounded public policy and has a heart for the gospel and for helping others understand how biblical values play an important part in the lawmaking process.
Nature tells a story that those in the building behind me would refer to as natural law, a story which human reason can apprehend, but also a story which the human heart can be unfortunately prone to reject. A great deal of that story is communicated by the body. Truths pertaining to the proper function of every level of society, from the individual to the family to the political state, can be known intuitively simply by a rational appeal to human embodiment. When individuals and societies consciously reject these truths, calamity is never far behind. Young people today have been sold a counterfeit story. They've been sold a lie about their bodies and about the implications of being either male or female. Rather than young boys being told that it is good to be masculine, they are told that masculinity in all its expressions is evil and oppressive. Rather than young girls being told that femininity is good and beautiful and worthy of honor, they are told that to achieve true status and equality and freedom, they must reject their femininity in favor of masculine traits. Based on this cultural lie, they reject the story that their body tells them. The problem for these young people is that their body cannot help but tell the truth. As a result, these children and their families are pushed to pursue harmful, life-altering procedures by activists, teachers, friends, cultural icons, counselors, and medical professionals, all in the name of silencing the body's natural witness. Rather than seeking to guide and instruct young children on how to live a fulfilling life within biological and moral boundaries, individuals and institutions leverage their influence over the most impressionable in our society to subvert the biological reality of their bodies. Rather than seeking to uphold and protect the bodily integrity of our most vulnerable population, they seek its destruction. In line with the shift that author Carl Trueman exposes in his book Rise and Triumph of the Modern Self, the prevailing cultural narrative is no longer about bringing one's mind in line with their body. Rather, an individual's emotions, and in this case, the fleeting emotions of children, are given supremacy over the body. The petitioners in this case state as much on page 6 of their brief. But emotions are fleeting. They're easily influenced. Emotions are not a reliable source of truth, and they cannot be the basis for such damaging and impactful medical procedures. The government has a duty to care for these children and promote their long-term flourishing by preventing these destructive procedures. States like Tennessee and my state of Kentucky and others around this nation have taken the first step in that direction. We have risen to the moment. We have met the challenge. We have proclaimed loudly that it is good for men to be men and for women to be women. I pray that for the sake of children across this nation and for the sake of society in general, that the court will clearly and unequivocally agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Tommy Valentine is the director of the Catholic Accountability Project at Catholic Vote. He leads Catholic Vote's research and investigations into Catholic institutions and politicians who discredit the faith by their failure to uphold Catholic teaching. He also works to expose secular organizations which abuse the church. He grew up in Northern Virginia and now lives in Steubenville, Ohio. Let's give a warm welcome to Tommy.
Good morning. Well, at Catholic Vote, we're proud to be here with a truly diverse coalition of people from all different backgrounds. And we're also really proud of our bishops. I want to brag on them for a second because they have never wavered on gender ideology. They have consistently spoken out and written that transgenderism is contrary to everything both science and religion tell us about the human person. And their position is based in human dignity and respect for people who are suffering with confusion about their bodies. And as Catholics, we believe that people with gender dysphoria deserve more than a temporary surgical or pharmaceutical fix. They deserve to flourish in the body that God created for them. As Catholics, we're watching this case very closely because we know it will have implications for religious freedom. Right now, the Biden administration is trying to force Catholic hospitals to perform transgender interventions. The Catholic Medical Association is a co-plaintiff along with the state of Florida to stop the Biden administration, and we expect that a strong ruling by the court in this case will vindicate Catholic healthcare providers for practicing real medicine over exploitation of children. Now, one word I will use to describe the Tennessee law is compassionate. And I say that based on my own experience. And I've never really talked about this publicly before, but I figure now is the time here with this case. I have never suffered with gender dysphoria, but I have always felt sort of a bond with children, young adults who do, because at age 17 I developed severe obsessive compulsive disorder. And I think OCD and gender dysphoria have a very similar MO. They both cause the brain to tell us things that aren't true about ourselves and about our environment. And my OCD became so bad that I had to drop out of high school and lived as a prisoner of my own mind in my parents' basement. And the more I succumbed to my fears and did what my brain told me to do, the worse it got, and I couldn't stop. And after more than a year of torment, I was able to get into an intensive treatment program. And that's where I learned that the only way to confront OCD, the only way to overcome it, was to confront my worst fears. And I spent hours a day, every day, for months, intentionally doing all the things that I was afraid of. And it was a very, it's a very painful process. It was the only way I could learn that it would be okay if I ignored what my brain was telling me. And I still suffer from OCD, but because of that treatment and years of ongoing therapy, I've been able to graduate college and marry my wonderful wife and hold down a job and lead a challenging but rewarding life. And so it breaks my heart that many suffering kids are led down the opposite path from where my doctors led me. These kids are told that their subjective experience of distress is the measure of reality. And they're steered through experimental interventions at the hands of medical experts who are reimbursed for treatment regardless of whether the child's mental health improves or not. And if my doctors and therapists had told me, as many kids with gender dysphoria are told, the distressing thoughts you have about yourself and your body and your surroundings are true, and you should accept them, and you should lean into them, I would still be in my parents' basement. And so I know that my disorder is not the same as gender dysphoria, and I'm certainly not making any recommendations about how it should be treated. But I do hope that my personal story illustrates that what these kids need to hear is the truth about their bodies. And the truth can make them uncomfortable, and it may not seem compassionate. But let me tell you, for somebody who's experienced mental illness, when your own brain turns on you, it's terrifying. These kids just want their suffering to stop, and they want what they think will give them peace. But my own experience proves that sometimes compassion means saying no. Sometimes it means a doctor and a therapist and a parent telling a child your mind is lying to you, and you can't rely on your own judgment right now. So I'll be here as a steady hand to help you relearn who you are, and you will get better. That's what they need to hear, and they need the protection of time and space to heal. And that's what the Tennessee law guarantees to them, and that's why I believe Tennessee's law is fundamentally compassionate. It must be allowed to stand, not in spite of the suffering of children, but because of their suffering, to alleviate it, to give them the time and space to learn who they are. Thank you very much for being here.
I got a feeling that tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. I feel it. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. I feel it. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. I feel it. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. Tonight's the night. Let's live it up. I got my money. Let's pick it up.
Our next speaker is Nikki Johnson. Nicole Johnson, Dr. Nikki, lives in Northeast Ohio with her husband and 2 daughters. Nikki earned certification in both general pediatrics and pediatric critical care medicine. Prior to leaving clinical practice in 2022, her clinical expertise in pediatric procedural sedation helped earn her division national recognition as a center of excellence in the field. Nikki is passionate about reforming healthcare and has a record of advocacy and service in her mission to see medicine restored to a focus on the individual doctor-patient relationship, where physicians are bound by the Hippocratic Oath and patients have affordable, evidence-based care, choice, and transparency. Let's give a warm welcome for Nikki.
I'm Dr. Nikki Johnson, the co-director for FAIR in Medicine. I am a mother, a physician, and an advocate for health. Today, I want to advocate for the truth. They are trying to drown us out with music because they are not advocating for the truth. Truth exists, it is discoverable, it's healing, and it gives you freedom. Sex is binary. That is a biological truth supported by science and cannot be altered regardless of medical or surgical interventions. Gender identity, on the other hand, is a concept rooted in subjective feelings rather than objective evidence or scientific fact. Subjective feelings can change throughout life, and while it is developmentally normal and healthy for children to explore their subjective identity, it is unhealthy for subjective feelings to be conflated with biological truth. My duty as a mother is to support and advocate for my daughter's healthy development. And my duty as a pediatrician is to help you support your children's healthy development. We are here today because adults, including the pediatricians at the American Academy of Pediatrics, are failing their fiduciary responsibility and have injected falsehoods that are eroding public trust and harming children. In 2018, the doctors in the AAP introduced gender-affirming care guidelines for treating gender dysphoria, which include halting puberty with drugs, prescribing sex hormones, and performing irreversible surgeries on children. Not only did those recommendations falsely conflate gender identity with sexual identity, but they also lacked quality, supportive evidence. In encouraging children to alter their healthy physiology, disfigure their healthy bodies, and risk long-term side effects, including infertility, the pediatric organization disregarded many ethical principles. Even worse, the AAP reaffirmed its guidelines in 2023. They appeared to pressure the the WPATH to change its guidance, and they support today the defendant in this case, despite evidence demonstrating no overall benefit and even harm caused by gender-affirming care. Because of this blatant disregard for the truth, our children are witnessing the disintegration of trust and healthy relationships, including the doctor-patient relationship. Without this blatant disregard of the truth and widely accepted ethical principles in science and medicine, we would not need to be here today. FAIR submitted an amicus brief supporting the plaintiff in this case, aiming to assist the court by emphasizing the importance of truth in distinguishing between biological sex or sex and subjective gender identity in legal context. By making this distinction, we can secure individual freedoms by protecting essential sex-based rights. By making this distinction, we can let children know the truth and secure their freedom to grow and develop into healthy adults. Truth exists. It is discoverable. It has value. Desistance and detransition is truth. It promotes health. Today I advocate for the truth because the truth is healing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nikki. Our next speaker is Candace Jackson. Candace is an attorney who served as Acting Assistant Secretary for Civil Rights and Deputy General Counsel in the U.S. Department of Education from 2017 to 2021, where she was responsible for drafting the first ever regulations under Title IX addressing campus sexual harassment and assault. Candace has returned to private law practice and currently represents incarcerated women in California prisons in Wolf's lawsuit to overturn the 2021 law that allows male criminals to choose to be housed in women's prisoners based on gender identity. Candace lives with her wife, Patricia, and their 9-year-old twins, Madeline and Zachary. Let's give a warm welcome to Candace.
It is an honor to contribute to the excellent input from speakers that are assembled today by Do No Harm. I'm also a network attorney right now with the group FAIR, Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism, and they're taking a pro-human approach to critiquing the rights-infringing nature of legal recognition of so-called gender identity over sex in schools, in prisons, in medical and therapy fields. At stake here today in the Supreme Court is whether a state government can ban pumping kids full of hormones that objectively do not promote or maintain health and cause a cascade of serious lifelong negative effects. What we must not neglect to ask ourselves is why. Why would anyone, much less significant numbers of doctors who take oaths to do no harm, jump into the belief system of gender affirmation? Why would the objective and obvious, predictable and palpable effects of using medical technology to deny or hide a person's sex be accepted as worth it? These kids don't have cancer. They aren't dying. They have zero physical malady for which dangerous medtech experiments might be tolerated. While the demand for access to body modification to reflect gender identity might be new, the die that cast this mold is ancient. Castrating young boys and mutilating the genitals of young girls to make purity or chastity permanent is an age-old evil popping up periodically throughout history. So bodily harm in the worship of gender identity is a contemporary manifestation of a very old lie, and it is always based on an unprovable assertion in the metaphysical realm, not in fact or evidence. Affirming gender isn't help for trans kids, it is harm for all kids. What the honorable justices will be debating here today isn't about transgender youth or trans healthcare. Toss out the neo-label trans. This is about girls and boys and whether to give them med tech to self-harm in pursuit of false spirituality. Today's battle is about recognizing that in our moment of civilization, we have a choice either to cling to mystical beliefs to justify carving up kids, or to see in the echoes of history that no decent society pretends there is ever justification for harming kids with lies and butchery. No matter if a doctor, a parent, or a child believes in medicalizing their inner identities, the state has a fundamental duty to protect kids from sacrificing health, fertility, adult sexual function, and to preserve every boy and girl's chance to grow up with a healthy body and an unpoisoned mind regarding the truth that human sex is unchosen and unchangeable, independent of feelings or stereotypes. That truth isn't a burden to our kids. It's the intricate and miraculous foundation of personhood, of being human. May we reject the lies, fantasy, and human destruction of gender beliefs and step forward today into the truth, reality, and human dignity grounded in recognition of sex as fact, not fiction. Thank you.
Thank you, Candace. Margot Heffernan is a radical feminist and mother with over 30 years of experience providing medical research and writing for legal and medical professionals. She has a master's in library and information science and a master's in creative nonfiction. Previously, Margot served on the board of a local homeless shelter where she contributed marketing, fundraising, and speaking skills. Please join me in welcoming Margot.
Good morning, DC. The number of transgender children has exploded. Dr. Lisa Littman, gender physician researcher, believes in the social contagion theory to explain the 4,000% rise in gender dysphoric youth over the past 5 years. According to Littman, girls especially have been swayed in great numbers by peers or social media to assume a trans identity. Approximately 300,000 minors in the U.S. claim such an identity. This is transgenderism, the cult-like phenomena cloaked in the righteous rhetoric of a civil rights movement. And so many victims are children, their bodies maimed, commodified, and used to promote an ideology that turns reality on its head. Gender hucksters and a worldwide nexus of NGOs and corporate behemoths have capitalized on the West's empathy toward marginalized groups. But the trans child is a fallacy, a false representation of a marginalized group. Enter Big Pharma, which rarely misses a chance to retrofit an old drug to a new malady. Lupron is such a drug. When its use as an end-stage prostate cancer treatment no longer turned a profit, it was repurposed as a treatment for endometriosis and precocious puberty. Today, Lupron is a highly profitable drug because of its resurrection as a puberty blocker, the first-line treatment in children who believed they were born in the wrong body. According to Komodo Health, nearly 18,000 U.S. minors were taking puberty blockers between 2017 and 2021. In 2020, it brought in $752 million in revenue. As a gender treatment, Lupron shuts down puberty. Cross-sex hormones are then administered to change the child's sex. Lupron, though, has an ominous past, an alarming list of adverse effects, including risk of diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and convulsions. Bone loss in adolescence is a documented effect of children taking this drug. Lupron might even affect brain structure in developing youths, potentially lowering IQ. In fact, the Endocrine Society now cautions that puberty blockers may include unknown effects on brain development. And yet, Lupron continues to be routinely and casually prescribed off-label to children in gender clinics across the U.S. But you see, denial of puberty is not a treatment for anything, let alone the constructive diagnosis of gender dysphoria. Puberty is an essential part of human development, an integral piece in the formation of the adult human. Now, we are all in this fight, a fight that is not between left and right, believer versus non-believer, man versus woman. No, we are a united voice. Let's remember that we are here today to reject the long and insidious Lupron legacy and the harms done to children in the name of gender ideology. Let's tell Tennessee and the children who suffer under the mantle of this regressive ideology that we have had enough. Let's tell everyone who stands with us today that we have their backs. We will always have their backs. We will not stand down. Thank you.
Thank you, Margot. Our next speaker is Jonathan Alexander. Jonathan is an attorney and senior counsel for Governmental Affairs for Liberty Counsel, a litigation firm dedicated to advancing religious freedom, the sanctity of life, and the family. In this capacity, Jonathan consults with and advises law and policymakers at the federal, state, and local levels across the nation. Please join me in welcoming Jonathan to the stage.
Well, good morning. Good morning. As stated, I'm Jonathan Alexander. I'm an attorney, and I'm here to stand with the state of Tennessee as they protect the innocent children within their state. You know, we're all created and our bodies are intricately designed to grow and to thrive and to overcome. And all of our nation's children have everything that they need within them to blossom into strong, capable adults that they are capable and destined to become. But today we are faced with this stark reality that this agenda and this movement seeks to interrupt and to disrupt that natural process of growth by using chemical and surgical restraints to forever harm its victims and trap them in this ideology. We have to be clear about one thing, that this is not healthcare. This is harm. This is harm that's masquerading as a solution. And thankfully, the state of Tennessee and states all across the country are standing up and saying no to this. You know, I've heard the arguments from the other side, and I've heard that they are offering promises through these interventions. But these are hollow promises. They're hopes that they will never be able to deliver on. And what's worse is their attempt to drown out any voice that stands in opposition to them. But thankfully, them drowning us out occurs no longer. Because of what we're doing out here and because of the arguments in the court, we will be quiet no longer. We can give an even stronger voice to the youth and to the young adults that have gone through this, telling them and reminding them that they are beautiful in the way that they are created, even those that have gone through gender transition and have overcome the emotional scars and physical scars of that industry that has lied to them. This is an opportunity for them to take back their ability to live out how God has created them, and also tell their story that acts as a caution so that other children are not caught in the lies of this agenda. You know, that is everything that Tennessee is trying to do here today. Really, that is all that we can ask for to be done. For the right of the state and for the right of parents, the right of common sense men and women to protect the innocence of children by stopping these experimental surgeries. We are the side that offers that truth. We are the side that offers true care, that offers true love. We are the side that offers the care that involves walking with children through their challenges and encouraging them that they can endure and grow to their best selves without irreversible interventions. That is why we will keep fighting. So I want to encourage you to keep fighting, to keep standing against this industry, to keep battling back against the confusion and the fear, to keep refusing to yield to the pharmaceutical and surgical industries, to hold this line for truth, to hold this line for nature and for God's created order, and to hold this line for the innocence of our children. And in that way, we will protect the innocents among us. We will preserve their potential, and we will do our part while we do no harm. God bless you.
All right, what an amazing lineup of speakers we've had from a very diverse background, and I love hearing their stories and their voices and to tell the stories about why they're out here today. Now's your opportunity to tell everybody, remind everybody, let your voice be heard about why we're out here today. All right, so let's remind everybody to stop the harm, stop the harm, stop the harm, stop the harm. Stop the harm! 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 All right, and I'm gonna yell protect. You're gonna say kids, protect! 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 Thanks for coming out. We're getting some more great speakers for you.
Chicken fried and cold beer on a Friday night, a pair of jeans that fit just right, and the radio. Well, I was raised up beneath the shade of a Georgia pine, and that's home, you know. Sweet tea, pecan pie, homemade wine, where the peaches grow. My house is not much to talk about, but it's filled with love that's grown in southern ground, and a little bit of chicken fried. Cold beer on a Friday night, a pair of jeans that fit just right, and the radio. Precious child, and no mother's love. It's funny how it's the little things in life that mean the most. Not where you live, what you drive, or the price tag on your clothes. There's no dollar sign on a piece of mind. This I've come to know. So if you agree, have a drink with me. Raise your glasses for a toast to a little bit of chicken fried. Cold beer on a Friday night, a pair of jeans that fit just right. And the radio world, I'd like to see sunrise. See the love in my woman's eyes. Feel the touch of a precious child. And know a mother's love. Thank God for my life, for the stars and stripes, may freedom forever fly, let it rain.
All right, folks, my name is Lindsay Killen. I am the Chief Operating Officer with Do No Harm. I'm also a native Tennessean. Go Vols! Thanks for being here. I am substituting for Beth. And I am going to introduce our next speaker, who is Dylan Jeremiah with the Family Policy Alliance. Dylan Jeremiah serves as the Director of Government Affairs for Family Policy Alliance, advancing the ministry's vision and mission in Washington, D.C. In his role, Dylan engages with congressional offices, federal agencies, and the executive branch, as well as partners with D.C.-based national allies to develop and execute strategies to mobilize FPA constituents and serve as a resource for state-based allies. Everyone welcome Dylan.
Thank you, and good morning, Do No Harm. God bless you all being here to fight on behalf of those who are too young to fight for themselves, against all of this craziness, against all of this nonsense, and the greed of delusional and barbaric doctors. I'm thrilled to be here amongst all of you with such a bipartisan and diverse coalition. And I first want to take time to thank all of our hardworking FPCs nationwide across this entire country that are fighting this fight in their very own front yard. In state houses, in capitals, and in executive mansions, these folks are fighting to make sure that children can keep their innocence and that they can grow up in a healthy, normal way in a God-fearing society. That they can explore their faith and their world without adults steering them toward a permanent and evil end. And let me be clear, the genital mutilation and sterilization of children is evil and wrong. Full stop. Whether our troops are fighting against radical ideologies that promote this barbaric and pagan practice in the third world, or sadly when we have to fight it here in our nation's capital on our own turf. But the roadmap is very clear. We know the truth, and we know that we will win. Legislation